Again, my name is Albert La Rotunda of Spring Street, Red Bank. I'm going to make this very brief. I'm here because I am trying to resolve a issue with the Red Bank Public Utilities Department. And the document that you have in front of you basically is stating that this is something that's been going on for over a year. And as I said in a previous testimony, that it's now escalated to the point where my mortgage company gets involved. What is it? It seems like it's such a simple thing, but for some reason, either I'm unable to get in touch with the right... Hello? Either I'm unable to get in touch with the right council people to discuss this, or it's hard to set up meetings. Now, the status of this, to refresh your memory for those who may have forgotten or knew, is that apparently the Red Bank Board ordinances require that a property owner be responsible for repairing any connection to their home for water that is under the street. And I have disputed this from the very beginning when I had an emergency with a water leak in front of my home. And I questioned the water utility department as to why should I be repairing something underneath a borough street? This is public property. From the point of view of a property owner, I cannot be insured for that. That's number one. If my tree falls in your yard, your property insurance covers that, not mine. Same thing should apply for a water repair. So, getting down to the nitty-gritty, I've been tried to be very pleasant about this, but I'm losing my patience. I think the matter of this is that at some point in the past, the municipality, the water department in particular, decided that the infrastructure that belongs to the water department is now the property of the property owner, and that property owner is responsible to repair it. So me buying my home 20-something years ago, I wasn't aware that the rusting, rotting line that's under the street is my responsibility. It didn't say anything like that in the deed. Neither does my mortgage company know that that is my property. And I asked former borough administrator, Mr. Sickles, well, if this is my property, do I have an easement to repair it? And he says, no, we have our own contracted company, plumbing company that's bonded, has the proper equipment to do that. So getting down to the nitty-gritty, the whole point of this is that when I had this water leak problem, I was given a letter to sign and agree that I was going to pay for these repairs. And in my view, that is me asking to sign a contract.
You're talking, Al, you're talking, just for purposes.
Yes.
You're talking about the letter of December 7, 2016?
This is the letter, yes. This is the letter from Thomas Branch asking me to sign on the dotted line saying I agree to pay for that.
Okay, great.
Okay, so I refused, and I continued to refuse, and time flies by. You know, it's amazing how a year flies by. And I had personal emergencies in the fall, major personal emergencies, including a hurricane that hit Puerto Rico, which absorbed a lot of my time. But I was working with Councilman Ziprick, thank you, Mr. Ziprick, to try to keep the channels of communication open. So what it basically amounts to is that I believe that this, one, is an ethical issue, it's a policy issue, and it's also a contractual issue. The Public Works Department does not have any form of service contract that a water user signs when they sign up for water service. And this is done in other municipalities. It is done in other municipalities around the country. It should be very clear that if you're signing on for water service in this town, what you are paying for. And in this case, I never agreed to own or pay for a rotting line under the street, which cost me roughly $3,000. That's what I'm being billed for. So I hope that I can resolve this matter with, hopefully through the borough attorney or some other means, because this is really an issue. It's not just me. I'm not just here to complain. You know, I heard Stephen Hawking comments about his, he passed away today or yesterday, and he says, what are we here for? Of all things that I've studied in science, why am I here? And that's one thing that stuck in my mind, says I'm not here to complain. I'm just here to see that everyone is doing their job, and I believe the majority of everyone is doing their job, but I think that some things get lost in the shuffle, And this is something that affects everyone who's using water in the state, in the town. And the side issue, which is also the issue, is about the lead hazard, because when they dug up that water connection, they found that my connection was made out of lead. And there's probably hundreds of other homes in town here that are also have lead connections. And this is a state issue, it's not just a local issue. So I recommended to Cliff Keen, the Utility Public Works Director, I said, we have all these brand new water meters that are supposed to relay all this information about the water system. And I recommended, why don't you use these water meters to do something useful in addition to that? And that is to see if you can figure out a way to see which houses are actually have water connection problems and may possibly have lead connections. That was my suggestion. So I offered something positive.
Al,
Thank you.
again, I'm aware of the issue. I know that some council people are also aware of the issue. And I don't want to put Mr. Cannon on the spot because, frankly, this was reviewed. No, it was reviewed by your predecessor too. I don't know if you have all.
I reviewed it today as well.
Oh, okay.
But I'm sorry to inform the gentleman that there's no way that, just the bill, the ordinance, the contract you're referring to is a request for service, which means that you're subject to all the borough ordinances when you pay the water connection fee. But the homeowner, you step into the shoes of anyone else who connected earlier. And the ordinance says very clearly that the borough is responsible for the main, and you guys are responsible for the tap up to the house. And actually, your ordinance is a little peculiar in that it makes the homeowner also responsible for the curb box and stopcock, which is usually not included in other municipalities, but that's included here. And so, I regret to inform you, I know you were asking for a meeting. I'm glad you came tonight. There's nothing that we can do about it. The borough has been doing, this has been the rule for years, and everyone's been paying, other residents who have the same issue you have, paid for the exact charge that you have. So, you seem like a really nice guy, but if you make an exception for you, we have equal protection issues with everybody else and wind up paying for everyone else's water line, which...
You're exactly right. There is equal protection issues, and that's the whole point. You're quoting an ordinance which I believe is wrong.
Well, your remedy then is you can go to the courts and challenge the validity of the ordinance or the contract.
And so the question is here, can I rely on any council people to discuss this matter with? Because I don't think it's necessary to have to bring it to a courtroom.
The council people can't change the ordinance. They can change.
Of course they can. They can change an ordinance.
No, but you said council member.
Well,
no individual council member
of course
can change
not.
the ordinance. As a majority, they could. I can tell you that I am certain that the borough engineer, the director of public utilities, and Mr. Branch, who corresponded with you, will recommend strongly and vigorously that the ordinance not be changed for a number of reasons. One, the municipality never takes responsibility for the service line, as you're suggesting. In any municipality that I've been involved in any capacity. And two, you would have hundreds of people here who paid the $29.70 charge before you, screaming, yelling that they want their money.
Exactly. And perhaps there should be some type of restitution. Did you think of that? People are being coerced into paying something they have no knowledge of. I've heard of people that had water gushing in the street and then they are confronted with a bill saying you pay thousands of dollars.
If your mailbox got knocked down, do you pay for it or does the post office?
What? What does the mailbox have to do with this?
If your mailbox got knocked down, who pays to replace it? You do. Right?
It's on my property. The mailbox is on my property. That is not a good analogy.
Most of the service line is on your property.
No,
no.
I have 6 foot, I was charged for 6 foot of service line. Only 1 foot was on my property. And I'm charged by the foot. The rest of it was in the street. And that was technically cheap because I was on the side of the street where the water main was. People that are not on the same side as where the water main is, they're paying by the foot. They could be paying double. So the whole point here is that you've got a document here from the utilities department that you're coercing people to sign when there's an emergency going on because they're worrying about being liable for ice in the street or a water hazard, and that's not right. Thank you.
Good luck to you.
Mr. Meyer?
William Meyer, 12 Mullen Street, Red Bank. Quick question. Was that lead connection a type of Fernco connection, or
Ask
was
him
it a
outside,
lead
Joe. I
pipe?
mean, you're addressing the council.
Yes, well, I've got to find out from him before I can address you whether or not he was talking about a small piece of lead connecting pipes, or whether it was a section of lead pipe, because I'm concerned about water going through a lead pipe and going into a home.
That's your concern, yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'd just like to know if he could clarify what was lead.
I didn't bring it with me, but yes, the connection from the main to the shut-off valve is partly made out of lead, which is flexible. It's got to be at least 60 years old.
How much distance? Was it a substantial piece?
It was about 2 foot long, 2, 3 feet long.
But Your Honor, one of the things, now I'm going to address you.
Yeah.
All right, from what I've gleaned from him, I am concerned.
You can talk Mr. Larrotondo all night, but
I
this
am,
isn't addressed.
I am addressing you, Your Honor, or your mayor, or whatever you want to call it. I want to get the facts straight before I misaddress you. All right? A section of lead which is delivering water to a home is dangerous. I mean, we can go back in history of the Romans and find
That's not
out how bad it
necessary.
is.
Cliff, would you like to address we've had this discussion before 2 years ago, as I recall, but if you would like to address this current status of the lead, what is being replaced, if you would like to go through that for Mr. Myers to ease his mind.
No. I'm satisfied with what he just said, that we have a significant piece of lead that is probably not just in front of his house, but in front of others, and in front of businesses. And years ago, I came into the council and I suggested that Red Bank has wonderful water. It tests from deep wells, it comes in, it's much better than some of the other water we get in Monmouth County. But by the time it gets to a house going through a lead pipe connection, it doesn't get tested. By the time it goes through a lead pipe and goes into a place that's selling coffee, making a ton of coffee and giving it to everybody and putting it in soda, it doesn't get tested. I suggested a long time ago, at least for purposes of diners and places that are serving the public, that we have filters, before substantial filters that are checked by our whoever it is that goes in and gives them their CO
The health department.
to protect the health of the people, particularly children.
You did make that suggestion, and I think at that time, it was referred to our professionals to take a look to see what possible ordinances we could draft to make it applicable to the retail service establishment that deals with the public, for the protection of the public. And I don't recall what the upshot of it was, but you made that suggestion. I think it merits review, and to take a look at what the latest technology is, and what we should talk to our health officer to see whether or not an ordinance can be crafted.
I can tell you that having talked to various establishments, they don't filter what amounts to something that will take out lead. And it's particularly problematic for pregnant women and children. I mean, we're talking about all these things that are happening with kids that have these unusual deficiencies that perhaps were not known a long time ago. I mean, it could be the lead. So I implore the council to take that up and to.
I'm gonna follow through with that with the health officer, because I think you need we should have an answer or something.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Mayor, real quick, I just want to make one 10-second point, is that certain actually homeowners companies now are creating endorsements called service line endorsements, which will cover certain water line breaks depending on the peril or the cause of loss. So like Narragansett Bay is a homeowners company that writes in Red Bank. They'll have a service line endorsement. Obviously, I don't have the endorsement in front of me, but I know that they do have an endorsement. They do write in Red Bank, which will actually cover stuff like that. I don't want to put no can of worms, but there are insurance companies that actually will do stuff.
Don't plug your agency.
Yeah, you're gonna
Don't
sell it
plug
to
your
them.
agency.
David Pasquale actually does insurance, so
You got a policy in your pocket?
Pasquale Agency.
Mr. Boyd.
Good afternoon.
Good evening, Mr. Boyd.
Good evening. P.O. Box 2074. I wasn't going to speak tonight, but I just have to. Listen to the attorney. Years I worked here, that's what people paid their tax for. I was one of them, to go out,
I'm just telling you what the law says, that's not my policy.
I understand that, but I'm saying, I listen to you. But I was one of them, worked from the street department, went and dug that hole and placed that main on the curb and put a water line in there, to the main. The homeowners back in the day didn't do it. We did it. I worked here, we did it. They changed the ordinance. And I have here a lot of people that came to this council meeting complaining about the tax that they paying, they're not getting the service. They came here, before you came to be the attorney up here, they came here and spoke about the water main breaking, what they gotta pay, $3,000, $4,000. What are you paying your tax for? What are you paying your tax? Just for sanitation pickup? What are you paying?
The water system isn't funded by taxes, it's funded by rents that are paid, user charges, we pay fees for water, and that's what funds the infrastructure. So taxes is kind of a misnomer. Your general budget taxes do not pay for the water system, it's paid through water charges. So people are complaining their water bill is too high, it's probably infrastructure, deferred maintenance, things like that. But the notion that the water system is paid with tax dollars is inaccurate.
But all the towns don't do that. So I hear, let me finish, I hear you say towns, make it where you at, but all the towns don't do that. Because they do come out and dig that hole in the front and place that main from there to the curb.
Almost every town that I'm involved in, the borough attorney does it the same way you guys do. Homeowner is responsible from the main to the house. The other towns that I'm in have the borough responsible for the stopcock and curb box, and the notion is that that's an important piece of equipment you don't want to leave to the discretion of the homeowner, because if their shut-off breaks and you have no way to turn it off. But everyone requires main to house is the homeowner, and you know, it's part of the connection. It's part of the connection fees. It goes into the calculation.
I mean, I understand it, but we used to place that.
And every town also does the same thing that you do with qualified contractors, because you can't just have Joe Plumber coming in from God knows where that you hired, or your cousin, down digging in, touching the main of the town. So every town qualifies contractors in advance and allows you to go to them for the quote. And they're bonded, and in this case I think we have Mark W., whose name I can never say. And there's two others, so the homeowners gets a choice, so they're not stuck with just the single government-sponsored contractor. And I mean, all the towns do it that way. That's the only way that you can really control the pipes and the quality of workmanship and not bankrupt the water utility every time someone's water breaks, essentially. I mean, that's the practical policy behind it. Whether it's right or not is another issue.
I'm just saying, I listened to you back there, but you know, I just want to correct you. I worked there, and we used to get the backhoe and dig that hole out there. But they changed the ordinance, so now, you know, you gotta get the company.
So they changed a number of years
But,
ago.
you know, it's still expensive. You know, it's still expensive to fix.
Anybody else? If not, we have a necessity to retire to executive session to discuss litigation only. However, we will not be making any decisions this evening, so we're not going to be coming back to make any announcements in this ongoing litigation. Motion to retire to executive session. Second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you all.